Well, greetings, folks. I represent the Earth. I am a voice for the protection of the ecosystems. With all this attention to AI, I want us to be very attentive to the fact of the mother that has given us the birth that we enjoy today. So I'm a mycologist. I study fungi. And this is going to be a rapid talk. You're welcome to take photographs. It is being recorded, but I only have 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about mycelium as immunological membranes for the ecosystem that helps sustainability and biodiversity. My key theme is mycodiversity is biodiversity. My disclosures are up here on the screen, and I always like to give attention to my mentors, Dr. Michael View, Kit Skates, Dr. Daniel Stuntz, and Dr. Alexander Smith. These are individuals who mentored me when I was very young, 18, 19 years of age, when I first got into fungi. In fact, mycelial networks infuse all habitats in a single cubic centimeter of soil. There can be several kilometers of mycelium that then is a prebiotic and creates guilds of cooperating organisms. There can be millions of organisms in a cubic centimeter. The cross-talking between these organisms, the activation of receptors, creates a collaborative community that gives rise to healthy and sustainable ecosystems. This is the mycelium growing over 5 days. And it's really important that people know this, and I'm going to emphasize this repeatedly. Mushrooms are made of mycelium. Mycelium aggregates into a mushroom. Every mycologist, when you slice a mushroom under the microscope, you describe first the mycelium. So let's go back in time. Most of you may know part of this story, but it was Alexander Fleming that discovered penicillin from Penicillium chrysogenum, a mold that inhibited a staph bacterium. But it was Mary Hunt from Peoria, Illinois, who went to a farmer's market and got a golden moldy cantaloupe. And from that culture, it led to the industrialization of penicillin. It produced 200 times more penicillin than the penicillin that Alexander Fleming had found. So an example of that mycodiversity, the differences between strains of fungi also are important because you can find superstars. I'm going to take you on a journey of scientific discovery, which is a big part of my life, that I think can lead to a paradigm-shifting solution that literally could save hundreds of millions of lives. This talk is essential for your own survival and for that of your descendants, as all comes to the deep well of nature. We all know about COVID. It devastated the world. It spread so fast. And now we have another pandemic on the near event horizon, bird flu. There are so many potential patient zeros, individuals who are combining multiple viruses, and bird flu, should it become contagious to humans, currently it's a 40% mortality rate. Think of that. 40% of the people who get bird flu die within 2 weeks. This is a pandemic that could be changed forever the future of humanity. So this is just a spread of a pandemic. I think all of you know how pandemics spread. A lot of these pandemics originate out of China, density of population, factory farming, pollution. It's not to throw China under the bus. It can happen in Minnesota. It can happen in Iowa. So I'm going to be talking about a few mushrooms, but this is one of them I'm really excited about. It was first mentioned by Dioscorides, over 2,000 years ago, and it's called agarikon, the one my hand is on. Elixirium ad longum vitam, the elixir of long life, 2,000-year history plus of use in Europe. And amadou, which my hat is made of, you'll be hearing about this. It grows on birch trees. So agarikon, reishi, and turkey tail are the species that I'm going to be focusing on at this point in time. Mushrooms are miniature pharmaceutical factories. Every species has a unique biochemistry that has been evolved for millions, hundreds of millions of years in many cases. And that unique complexity of components interfaces with human and animal and plant biologies in the most unique ways. Thankfully, through our ancestors of trial and error, we have been able to narrow the field from about 1.5 million species to about 30 species that are uniquely compatible with human physiology. I wrote this article in Herbalgram, Novel Antivirals from Mushrooms, a whopping 1 page long. Take out the photographs, it's even less than that, of all the scientific articles ever published on the antiviral properties of mushrooms. And then 9/11 occurred. I was approached by the US Department of Defense and the BioShield Biodefense Program, and they gave me carte blanche to submit as many samples as possible because they saw that article that I had published. 2,392 assays later, I shotgunned hundreds and hundreds of samples, and I found one that was particularly exciting. You can Google my name, Stamets, smallpox, and National Public Radio, and hear an interview with the Assistant Director of the FDA, the head of the BioShield program. But I hit the home run on this. A highly active mycelial extract grown on rice, very active against H5N1. The selectivity index in here, for those people in the pharmaceutical industry, you know this as well. This is highly active. These are in vitro human cells. So agarikon grows in the old growth forest, is now on the red list of extinction here in Europe. It grows in large trees in the high altitudes of the Alps in Austria and Slovenia. And this species can grow for over 100 years. It's one of the longest living mushrooms in the world. It grows in the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from. I live in a remote island in British Columbia. And I have accumulated many cultures of this, and sometimes they're very hard to obtain. And we don't harvest this mushroom. We take a small piece of tissue and a little cork borer there, and then we grow out the mycelium. So we have now a very large collection of the phenotypes, different strains of agarikon. Again, mycodiversity is biosecurity. Looking for the Mary Hunt super strain. And thankfully, when I had done the work with the BioShield program to find activity against smallpox, bird flu, and herpes, the Vector Institute, the Fort Detrick, quote unquote, of Russia also published an article, and they too had found that agarikon is highly active against bird flu. This is a sample of some of our culture library of 120 strains of agarikon on culture. 1 out of 50 times will I find an agarikon in the old growth forest. This is my most valuable physical possession in my life. This is a genomic library for the world biosecurity. We will have in this library a super strain of agarikon. And we cryogenically store them in liquid nitrogen. And another species, which is the most well-studied medicinal mushroom in the world, is turkey tail. You have it growing here in Germany and Austria, all over the world. One of the most common polypores. Highly studied clinical studies on this as well. I have a reference page for physicians and researchers, mushroomreferences.com. Please go to that page, unbranded, just the pure science. So it turns out that lipases, when they strip the lipids, fatty acids, away from the scaffolding of beta-glucans, which is the superstructure that creates mushrooms, it depotentizes it immunologically for humans. So it turns out hot water extracts of fruit bodies, very popular, are not good for you. I will repeat that. Hot water extracts of mushrooms are not good for you when you are sick. When you're not sick, they're marginally beneficial, but it's the mycelium that we have found to be so potent. Many of you have seen my TED Med talk where my mother extended her life more than 10 years using Herceptin in combination with turkey tail. This has been widely publicized. And turkey tail mushroom mycelium as an adjunct to oncological or cancer medicines is something that's very, very common and being practiced by thousands of doctors and patients. It also is a prebiotic for the microbiome, setting up the microbiome for beneficial bacteria and suppressing Clostridium, Staphylococcus, etc. This helps your microbiome then operate in a healthier state of existence. Now, we did some studies, and we found something very counterintuitive. We know that these mushrooms stimulate the immune system. A big concern is you can overstimulate the immune system. We found that the mycelium grown on rice upregulates 2 anti-inflammatory cytokines, interleukin-10 and interleukin-1RA, far more than the mycelium, far more than the fruit bodies, which did the opposite. So the idea of upregulating immunity while down-regulating inflammation is sort of an oxymoron in medicine. The fact that we can get the best of both is uniquely interesting. So I'm here to announce our successful 2 clinical studies using agarikon and turkey tail, 140 patients in total, double-blind, placebo-controlled. The placebo was rice in a capsule, and agarikon and turkey tail we combined. The FDA, when we applied for these clinical studies, they said, oh, we're concerned about the cytokine storm. Interleukin-1 beta is a cascade of inflammatory cytokines, and most people who die from COVID died from the cytokine storm. Liquids in their lungs, they couldn't breathe, they suffocated. So we were able to show the FDA that we had published that in fact the mycelium upregulates these anti-inflammatory cytokines. I'll repeat, interleukin-1RA, interleukin-10. And so the FDA approved this clinical study. So we wrote a paper at the University of Arizona Medical School, and I'm also a co-author, warning people about immunostimulation, but suggesting that there could be a unique opportunity combining mushroom mycelium of these two polypores to upregulate immunity and to extend vaccine efficacy. This is really important. So we did the double-blind studies, 140 people, 90 and 50 people, and the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, wrote this up, and we proceeded with the study. It went on for several, the data took a long time for us to amass. And we have this very close to publication. You can go to Medix here and see a preprint with the analysis. The peer review comments are fantastic. I'm really happy with those. I recused myself as a co-author, even though I'm intimately involved in this. I suggested agarikon and turkey tail. I supplied agarikon and turkey tail in the mycelial form, grown on rice. But because of conflicts of interest, because I have a business, I recused myself as a co-author. I think that was a smart thing to do. So here's some of the results. Now, the red line is agarikon and turkey tail. We call it FOTV. And the black line is the vaccine without the agarikon and turkey tail. The red line is the vaccine with agarikon and turkey tail. And you'll see a substantial reduction of the CDC's 10 most alarming adverse effects related to vaccination. Many of you have had a vaccination. Day 3, you feel like you're hit by a truck, right? You're sore, you have headaches, you don't want to go to work, you don't want to take the kids to school. You're just, and doctors tell you that's your immune system acting. Well, sort of. You're reacting to the vaccination. 30% of Americans, I know Europeans are different, will not get vaccines for fear of the adverse reactions to the vaccines. They've heard about people feeling terrible. They'd rather take the risk of getting the virus than getting a vaccine that I know is going to make them feel badly. So we have tremendous reduction of the adverse effects, but we also found that in the 6-month period, 89 out of 90 people came back to have their blood withdrawn. And looking at their blood, we found something astonishing. We found extension of antibody reservoirs in the patients who had agarikon and turkey tail with mRNA vaccines compared to those people who just had the mRNA vaccines without the agarikon and turkey tail. So to have this antibody extension 6 months later, after a single vaccine, from taking agarikon and turkey tail for a few days is remarkable. We recruited people literally in the lines going in to get vaccinations. About 800 people signed up. Because of pre-existing conditions, diabetes, all sorts of other factors, we had to deselect them, so we had a cohort of a clean, quote-unquote, population, so we could see signal from the noise. Now, this is what's really remarkable, is that we've been able to do something the pharmaceutical industry has spent billions of dollars on. Two things. How do you decouple reactogenicity, reaction to the vaccine, with immunogenicity, upregulating your immunity? We found this as an adjunct therapy for vaccinations. We have a substantial success in that regard, and we have extension of the antibody reservoirs, so your endogenous immune system has antibodies at the ready to be able to fight COVID, but not just COVID. So the other study with 50 patients, and this is truly remarkable. Welcome to take a photograph of this. Those of you who know about p-values of significance, this is clinically significant results. Look at those values. A 0.001, one chance in 999 or in 1,000, that is random. So the significance of the reduction of headaches, muscle aches, coughing, sneezing, what does that mean? It means that you're not spreading the virus. We can stop pandemics from individuals who are hyper spreaders. And moreover, the people that in this study, they got vaccines, but they still presented themselves to hospitals and clinics very sick. You can question whether the vaccines worked. Well, obviously, they got the vaccine, they felt terrible, and then they took agarikon on turkey tail, and then we had a massive reduction in adverse symptoms. We know from our in vitro evidence this will extend to bird flu, H5N1. We know with orthopoxis, we have excellent results. Those results were in vitro. So this was an epiphany. I spent so many years, decades of research. And when you look at the symptoms for COVID, which I'll list here, and then you look at the symptoms for H5N1, the only big difference is the loss of taste and smell. But COVID won't kill 40% of you. You know, I personally believe in vaccines. I get vaccinated. I don't believe in Vaccine of the Month Club. I don't believe in the constant barrage of vaccines that have not been studied when you're vaccinated with 5 or 6 vaccines simultaneously. Where's the clinical studies on that? There are none. So the pharmaceutical companies are experimenting on us in real time. In the United States, they cannot be sued. So they're protected legally. I think vaccines have saved millions, hundreds of millions of lives. I think using agarikon on turkey tail can extend vaccination benefits with less frequency for the need of vaccines because it raises your endogenous immune system to a higher state of readiness where your immune system can customize immunological responses. So this is mushroom mycelium for pandemic defense. And the fact that this mushroom grows in the old growth forest is a strong statement supporting the protection of old growth ecosystems for generations to come. But can mycelium benefit other organisms? Well, because of that article I wrote in Herbalgram and published, Novel Antivirals for Mushrooms, and then because of another discovery, that's why the clinicians came to me during the COVID pandemic saying, Paul, can you help? And what they had seen is a study that I published in Nature, Scientific Reports, with the USDA virologists, United States Department of Agriculture virologists, and Washington State universities, because they came to me saying, Paul, bees are being devastated by viruses. I'm a beekeeper, I'm a mushroom grower. That Venn intersection of my interests, I saw bees coming from my beehives for 42 days, a constant convoy of bees going to mycelium and wood chips, spreading the wood chips apart and sipping on the little droplets, the little exudates, the extracellular metabolites coming from the mycelium. And I thought that was remarkable. And what's happening to bees now around the world is the biggest threat to food biosecurity that we see today. Mass colony collapse. Mites are like hypodermic needles shooting these viruses into honeybees. Honeybees go to a flower, wild bees visit that flower, they get these viruses. And so the miticide-resistant parasitic parasites are spreading these viruses as a pandemic around the world. Now this pandemic is extremely serious. From ChatGPT, record-breaking die-offs of bees. One bee can pollinate 1,000 flowers in a day. They used to fly for 10 days, now they're flying for 4 to 5. But if your beehive doesn't even survive, you don't have pollination services for almonds, apples, cherries, pears, almonds. I mean, all these foods that we depend upon are dependent upon those bees, those hard-working bees. And this pandemic has spread all over the world. And here in Europe, we had about 30% die-off, colony collapse. And look what happens, especially with a deformed wing virus. Look at these sad bees here. Look at the size of their wings. They're wild bumblebees, bombus species. They can't fly. They can't pollinate. They're picked off by other insects. This deformed wing virus is limiting not only the lifespan of the life of the bee, not only how many flowers they can, but many of these bees don't even achieve liftoff. They can't do any pollination whatsoever. So we tried those similar extracts that we did with the COVID clinical trial. And we used the mycelial extracts, this time grown on sawdust. And against the deformed wing virus, you'll see the Lake Sinai virus, 5,000 to 1 reduction in 10 days of one treatment of putting the extract into the sugar water the honeybee growers use. And it's active against multiple viruses, 79 to 1, 800 to 1. My hat reduced the deformed wing virus. The mycelium is made from a mushroom. This hat is made from mycelium. It also reduced these viruses. So there's an unfortunate ruling in the past few weeks here in the European Union. None of you can legally buy mycelium-based products in the European Union because of a group of less than 5 made a stupid decision outlawing mushroom mycelium-based products for consumption. Not based on science, based on ignorance. And it'd be analogous that it'd be like allowing a brick building to be built, but outlawing the bricks to build it. Mushrooms are made of mycelium. I have a call to action to anyone here. You need to change this. This jeopardizes your world food biosecurity, European food biosecurity, jeopardizes the potential health of being able to protect your family and your communities. So I don't want to thank my teammates, my collaborators here. It's a great team. It's just not me. I'm the leader of this group. I follow my intuition, and I believe the deep intelligence of nature. Don't go down the AI wormhole and lose perspective that nature has given us our existence today. And we are here because of many successful choices on the evolutionary path, engaging with mycelium. I want to thank you very much.
I cannot believe you're taking a deadly virus and turning it into a family matter.